Hello, everybody. We're going to talk about an author who I've known for a very long time, who is part of a group of people that write for pleasure, and he comes from Northamptonshire. Alan Shipham, part of Northants Writers Inc. Good afternoon and welcome. And I'm very intrigued. I've interviewed many authors, but not one as part of a group. So I'm very intrigued as to how you started and how it's all going.
Hi, Liz. I know you've been trying to do this for a long time. So I'm really quite modest about it all, if I'm honest. I'll talk about the writing and the books and that, but I'm really an accidental author because it was never my intention and I started quite late. I don't really consider myself an author, although I put it on my LinkedIn page. I started in quite an awful situation in that I was a teacher at a college and I suffered false allegations. Luckily, it was nothing sexual, but apparently I stalked a student and beat him up, if you believe what was said. So anyway, then I was suspended for 9 months while they investigated, nothing happening. And then they dismissed me. It was basically for other reasons. I'd been a whistleblower and they didn't like that. So it put me in a really, really bad place. And I was having coffee with a friend, and she says, "Why don't you write about what you've done?" So I was like, "Well, that's a bit awkward. I've got all the bad things that happened because I'd kept incident reports when bad things happened, and I still had a copy of those in case anyone asked me at a later date. But I didn't really have the good stuff." And he said, "Well, why don't you sort of like be creative, write a story, change the names of places, what's going on, but still share the thread of what you've done, and you'll find it quite cathartic getting everything out, the bad stuff that had happened." I thought, well, I'll give anything a try. I think I've always been quite stable with mental health. Some people might say I'm not, but I've been a good support for other people at their times. This was one time probably I needed it. But you're reluctant, oh my guy, you go and approach someone support on that. So I sat down with a computer, and 115,000 words later, I'd written a book, story based on some of my experiences with students that I work with, and it was a real roller coaster. And some of the good things, some of the bad things, and I posted this bits of this book on a publishing house webpage. They had a way of allowing people to put stuff up, and people would read it and do reviews, and then you could float to the top and you got a review from them. I'm trying to think the name of the thing. I should have brought it with me, really. And it's such a long time ago, it's 15 years ago now. So anyway, I did this, and well, I reviewed other people's stories, and then they reviewed mine, and it was a sort of tete-a-tete. And I rose to the top, and I actually became one of the people who got a review. And they said, "A very nice story, but we aren't taking stories like this at the moment." And I looked at it, and there was a bit in there about it needed editing. And I thought, well, the only way I'm going to do that is to do it myself. Because I thought you just handed the story to a publishers and they would do the editing and everything. It don't work like that. So I decided to join a writing group. And I did. I went along, and they weren't really talking about writing. There was a little bit of talking about books that they'd read. I'm not very much of a reader, I'll be honest with you. So it was a bit of a struggle for me because we never did any writing. I wasn't improving my skills. So some of us who were in the group decided that we'd break off and create our own one. And it became like a homework group, I suppose, from when you're at school. Somebody had set a challenge, and you had a couple of meetings, and you come back and read your challenge out to everybody, and it could be anything. Somebody would share a picture. I remember one of a house on an island. Someone would share a sentence or the first line of a book that's already published, a word, and everyone could do what they want. We all took turns to set the challenge, but Northants Writers Inc. had been born. I created a web page, and four of us sort of founders, and we just seemed to attract people that came along. And the thing was, they came and they stayed, which was really, really good. Now, obviously, over time, people do move on. Some really successful stories, in particular, Lady Lizzie, she liked writing scripts and ended up writing for the BBC and things actually made into plays and things, which was absolutely amazing. So your members of the group has changed over the years. I'm one of the founders and I'm still there. And so it's been going 12 years. No, 10 years, because we had a 10-year celebration last year 11 years. So you've been going 11 years now. And we have a competition once a year, which I've never won. But it's been said, I'm not making this up myself, that my style and my writing has improved over that time, to the extent where I've actually helped other people out with editing pieces of work that they did. So that to me has been probably a big achievement for me. And what we've done along the journey is to actually put the stories together. And it's meant a lot of work for several people in the group. There's second readers who'll go through things that you've written. And then Mike is the editor and he publishes it all through Amazon. So they're on Amazon, 5 books that we've done. And you can buy them on there, or you can actually, some of them are free on Kindle. And the thing that I like is, like you said, it's a collection of stories from different people, and we are able to do it in whatever media we like. So I've really stretched myself because I wrote a story. I've done poems, I've done songs, I've done a script that's been published, and I've experimented with things like juxtaposition. I've really, really enjoyed the journey, and I've made some really good friends along the way. And we've done events with other writing groups, which has been very interesting. And it's what's been great is it's a different set of friends from my work, from some of the political things that I've done in the past. So it's like silos, and so that's been a good thing as well. So that's really where my journey has been in writing. So I think that's the fair story of what happened.
Well, Mike, Alan, sorry, I don't know why I said Mike. Alan, I've looked at the book that I've been so kindly given by you, and it's called Talking Without Being Interrupted. And I hope you notice that I let you speak without interrupting you. So we girls, we're quite good at letting in fairly quickly. But I've got 2 other titles, Tales of the Scorpion and While Glancing Out of a Window. Now, you just said there are 5 books, so there's 2 that I don't know about. And are they after Talking Without Being Interrupted, or are they before?
Yes, and Ghosts Are Real too. That followed in 2018, and then Soft Shadows, Faint Footsteps followed in 2021. So I didn't have a hand in the titles. Mike, who's the editor of the book, he goes into detail why he's chosen those lines, and they make sense when you read them. But the principle of the first book, I'm quite pleased I could take the thing of that, is Tales of Scorpion, because I like the idea of having a story with a twist at the end, a sting in the tail, if you like. So the stories in that book, the first one, are based on that. So
That's absolutely fantastic. And I noticed actually, because I read, unlike you, I read a lot. I've noticed some names on there that I actually know. So they've obviously done well, and you have, because it is hard to get work published. There's no question about that, unless you do it yourself, or unless you go to a family firm of publishers who are very good. I use 2, York Publishing, and it'll come to me any minute now. And they're very sort of, as I say, family friendly. They're like the old school type of publishers that talk you through what you do. And so that to me is absolutely wonderful. St Edward's Press, I beg your pardon. I knew it had come to me. St Edward's Press and York Publishing. They're 2 that I use. I'm not shy of letting people know their names because they're so helpful. I haven't had any work published, but I put many people their way, and they are just superb. It is difficult, and you don't know where to begin. And to get a group together, it's a bit like musicians and all sorts of other people who are a bit shy on their own, but you get people together. It's amazing what happens, isn't it? And I've read your stories. I think they're absolutely incredible. And also poetry, a whole anthology of work, isn't it?
Yes, that's what we call them, the anthology collection. So the good thing is that this has prompted some of the members of the group to publish their own work. Some people joined us who were actually already published authors. So Gordon had done some self-help books, and Debbie had done, she's into alternative therapies and things like hypnosis and stuff. So there are already some people in the group. We actually quite exciting. At one point, we got involved with students from Northampton University and Northampton College, and through an author. And what they had was one of our members wrote a screenplay for a ghost story, and then using the people at the college who did makeup and dress and that, people at the university did all the editing and direction and filming and everything. And some ghost hunters that we knew were friends of ours. They played the police in the actual film that was made, and they actually filmed it on location at somewhere that we'd been ghost hunting at, which was quite interesting because I recognised some of the scenes and things. There wasn't a role for me in the film, which was fine. I was a different character in them days and less extrovert. And what happened was they had decided to have a premiere, but they needed somebody to be like a host for the night, just introducing the acts, because we had burlesque, we had somebody reading poetry. It was just before Halloween. There was an atmosphere in the crowd that was there, and I was asked if I'd host it. Because I'd been a teacher before and stuff, and so I sort of took the bit in the mouth, and I stood on stage, and I dressed in various outfits in for a Halloween evening. I got a white workman's outfit and splattered it with blood, and then I came on with a chainsaw. But it really, really helped my confidence, and it started to help me get back to where I was. And it's being part of all that was brilliant for us. Mike used the character that he actually acted in that film and wrote a book about the character. And then he went on to write a story of somebody's life, like a gangster guy, which was very, very interesting. A biography. He's gone on to do other things as well, which is good.
It's quite interesting because I've just interviewed Nicholas McQueen, who wrote the Cockney Whipping Boy, and Nicholas is such a character. And he, of course, he started McQueen's The Florists, and he did the flowers for both Ronnie Cray's funeral and Reggie Cray's funeral. And if you go to the book that I've just read, there's talk about Violet meeting Judy Garland, and that was their mother, and that was the story. The last interview on books I did was with Nicholas, and part of that was to do with the Crays, and of course they're in this book as well, which I will hold up, but we will all put all the details up at the end. So I had to smile. It's followed me around. I don't actually know anything or have anything to do with the Crays, but they appear to be following me around at the moment.
I have a story, but I won't share it here. So it is amazing how it does touch different people in different places. Yeah.
Well, Alan, that's absolutely wonderful. So, talking without being interrupted, was that the last of them, or were the other
No,
two?
there was two more after that. That one. That was 2017. Of course, a lot of the writing we'd done, we would have a allowance, I think 5,000 words or something, and we could put in different things that we wanted, which is why, as you said, it's separated into segments like science fiction and such. But when we get a challenge in the group, I do the challenge, and then I try and push myself to do something else as well. So one of us, as Debbie, has actually published several of our own responses to challenges, which is an idea some of us thought we might do, but I never actually got around to it. Just so time consuming. That seems to be the problem when we've all got lots of things going on in our life, and I've been in election recently and things like that, and it just takes up so much of your time trying to do something like that. To find time to sit down and write, and you've got to be creative, you've got to be in the right mood as well. So I'll be completely honest, some of my work has been like last minute. It's like, oh, we've got that meeting on Monday, we've got to get there. So Sunday afternoon I might sit down, and I can be really, really creative when I'm under pressure. And I think that's where the best work comes from. We've had so much fun as well. I love it when I read a story out and everyone's laughing. I had a story recently where a guy was coming home from the pub, and we had to base it on a song. And of course, the song is Me and My Shadow, and he's chatting away with his companion, and it turns out that it's but what I did when I read it out was I played it a bit drunk, and so we all have a bit of laugh with the characters that we create as well.
Well, that's absolutely wonderful. Let me just explain to our viewers that the headings come under, in this particular book, humour, poetry, love, flash fiction, horror and crime, and drama. So there's so many different areas, and they're either short stories or poetry or plays. It really is an entertaining book, and I'm sure the other four are the same. Alan, we'll put all this up, and then people can go on to, I presume it's the usual booksellers, and unfortunately including Amazon.
Yes.
So we'll put all this up. I can't thank you enough for coming along.
That's
And
all right. No, it's been
hope-
great to catch up with you.
well,
Thanks for inviting me on. Yeah. So I'll just do it for the entertainment. And one day I'll go back to that original story and I'll do a complete edit on it and I'll put it out there and then everyone will say, that's the book he was talking about. Because I'd actually planned 4 books, but I didn't. After the first one, I'd got all that out the way. He fought all the battles I needed to do with the college and stuff. And it was just like, I just need to move on with my life, and writing has been, an important part of that. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you that Nicholas McQueen, in the front of his book, and I had no idea, put all his acknowledgements. And then underneath on the front page, it says, and a special thank to Liz Phillips for making sure I actually published this book. Because I'm God bless him, but it's sooner rather than later, Alan. And these things, people are interested, especially in what I call ordinary people's lives, because
Yeah.
people aren't ordinary, they're all extraordinary. You're extraordinary. I've known you a long time. And people like Nicholas McQueen is an extraordinary man, and his wonderful wife, Paula.
People who write fiction creatively draw from their life experiences. So there's a little bit of yourself in some of these stories. That's where a lot of the inspiration comes from. Yeah.
And like me, who smile a lot, I keep telling my family these aren't aging lines, they're laughter lines. But there are some serious parts, but there's also a lot of fun, isn't there?
Yes, definitely. I wrote a poem in one of the books about an unknown witness, and it's about a little girl who wakes up in the night, looks out the window, and catches sight of a fatal stabbing in the street outside. And the mum comes in and he doesn't realise what's happened, sends it back to bed. But that was drawn from something awful, like you just said, that actually really happened in my hometown. Obviously, I don't think the little girl saw it, but it could have been. That's the thing. And there's a little message in there. It makes you think we need to do something about society. So in your little way, you hopefully try and make a difference.
We do, and as I say, we can do it with a smile, Alan, too. It's so much the better. Bless you for coming on this afternoon, and we'll put all this up on our book reviews. And it is quite successful because they're people that you wouldn't ordinarily look at, or know about. So this is what our book review is all about. Our book review category is all about. So thank you very much.
Share in the reviews on the Amazon if you can, because I know Mike likes it when they happen. Thank you very much.